There's another story about him in the Bible where he's in the boat with 11 other disciples. And the Bible says that Jesus came walking on the water towards the disciples, and Peter is just blown away by, of course, all the other disciples, but believe Peter was the one who was always talking about, always the one speaking out. And he said, you know what, Jesus, this is my paraphrase, Jesus, what you're doing is so awesome. I'm so blown away by what you're doing. Is there any way I can do what you're doing? And Jesus says, do you want to try? Try. Come on out. So of course what happens? The Bible says Peter gets out of the boat and Peter starts walking on the water. He's walking on the water. So what ends up happening is, if you continue to read, the Bible says that as Peter kept his eyes on Jesus, he was fine. But at the moment he took his eyes off Jesus and was looking at the wind and at the waves, that's the point he started to sink. That's the point he started to sink. His fear of failure exceeded his faith in Jesus. Gentlemen, may I say to some of you respectfully that there are some areas in your life where you've taken your eyes off of Jesus. You're looking at your own abilities and you're saying, I don't have what it takes. And the truth is that without Him you don't. And for some of you, that's the reason why you're sinking in certain areas of your life. That's why for some of us home life is sinking, because we've taken our eyes, our trust off of Jesus. There are some men that refuse to draw the sword of the Spirit in their home because they're afraid that everyone will find out that there are things that they don't know about the Bible. There are other men that there is a new business in some of you, and your fear of failure paralyzes you. There are some of you that have a ministry that God has called you to do, and your fear of failure is stopping you from stepping out and doing what you're supposed to be doing. I mean, the list could go on and on of all the things, all the great, awesome things. There's a conversation that some of you need to have with your children. But your fear of them disrespecting you in your faith is what's stopping you from stepping out and doing what you need to be doing. Let's go on and on. Of all the things that we're not doing. Because we're afraid that we're going to fail. We're afraid that we're going to go on. So instead of doing what we're created to do, fighting for a divine cause, so many godly men hesitate. All right, let's change gears for a little bit here. Let's talk to ladies, all right? You out there, ladies? A couple of you there, good. Your role as your warriors and your role in your warrior's life is bigger than you could ever imagine, because in so many ways, he's becoming what you think about him. He's becoming what you think about him. Show me a courageous, godly man of God, and more times than not, he's got an encouraging wife nearby. You show me someone who's grown passive and hesitant, and almost every time you see a woman who's torn her man down over and over and over again. Why? Because he's becoming what you think of him. Let me explain it this way. Sarah on this earth is the woman who knows me better than anybody else. If the woman who knows me better than anybody else thinks that I can do it, guess what? I'm going to think that I can do it. But if the woman on this earth that knows me better than anybody else thinks that I can't do it, guess what? There is no hope for me. There's no hope for me. All right? I'm in so much trouble, I'm not going to make it. Ladies, consider this. Think about it. What's your greatest need from your husband? I think probably your greatest need is to know that your husband loves you even today. It's to know, yes, he loves me still. He cherishes me still today. Now, man, you might be thinking something like this. You know what? Yesterday, I racked up some points. I unloaded the dishwasher. I encouraged. I helped with the kids in the bath. I was all over it. I got all these points yesterday. But man, the problem with women is that most points evaporate at midnight. I don't know if you've learned this yet. This is what I've discovered. Most points don't have a long shelf life. And then you start all over again. And the guy's thinking, but man, I was so good yesterday. I did this yesterday. I did that yesterday. I accomplished all these things. And of course she says, I don't care about yesterday. I want to know, do you love me still today? And man, you're like, well, wait a second, I told you 3 months ago that I loved you. Of course, I changed my mind, I'll let you know. And to men, that makes perfect sense. And women need to know, do you still love me today? Women, let me let you know that your man doesn't need to know that you love him every day. That's not what his need is. His need is a lot different. Because again, he's a warrior, all right? The warrior doesn't need to know he's loved. The warrior needs to know, do you respect him? Do you believe in him? Now some of you sadly are going to say, you know what, to be honest with you, Pastor, I really don't respect him, nor do I believe in him. And what I need to tell you is that at some point, apparently you did, because you decided to marry the guy, okay? So what happened? Where did things go wrong? I mean, there's probably a lot of things, but let me just say this. Maybe you've been speaking the life out of him for so many years. I'm going to just let you know, it does something inside a man when his woman believes in him. You want to start turning things around in his life? Then change what you're saying to him. And he's going to want to live up to whatever it is that you're speaking about him in his life. Let's end by talking about this. We're going to talk about defeating the fear of failure. Write this down. Write this down. The warrior has what it takes. The warrior has what it takes. God has given you what it takes to do what he's called you to do. Believe it or not. You have what it takes. Now this is not one of those build up your self-esteem in you. You've got the power to do it. You've only got the power to do it because God has put it in you. Okay? Let's look at verse 14 again. We read it earlier, but I want to point out something a little different from this verse. Gideon, of course, is freaking out. The Lord turns to him and he says, go in the what? What does it say here? Go in the what? Strength. Go in the strength you have. Gentlemen, if God is leading you, he's stirring you up, then draw your sword and go. You've got what it takes. And wherever you go, wherever you're weak, that's where the Bible says that his strength is made perfect. The Bible says. His strength is made perfect. Now the problem is a lot of us are looking at the big problem in front of us. We're looking at the war. And we're saying, okay, as a whole, my whole marriage is in trouble, and so this is completely impossible. My children are out of control, and this is completely, my life is completely out of control. Whatever it is, we are looking at the war. And that's our problem. What I need to tell you is you need to quit looking at the war. You need to look at the battle in front of you. Look at the battle in front of you. You have what it takes to win the battle in front of you. Take it one bite at a time, and you'll be able to take the whole thing out. A lot of us, we're not willing to step out and do anything. You know why? Because we're afraid of the whole battle, the whole war. Instead of just taking it one step at a time. Peter tells us this. Look at this. It says, God's divine power has given us how much? What does it say? Everything we need for life and godliness through our knowledge of him who called us by his own glory and goodness. God proves this verse in Gideon's life. If you continue reading the story, it's got an interesting ending. Gideon pulls an army together of 32,000 men. 32,000 men. What does God do? God takes a bunch of them away. Leaves Gideon with 10,000 men. Now Gideon's looking at this situation. He's probably thinking, God, this is not enough to do what you want me to do. And God is thinking, Gideon, this is still too much. You know what God does? God boils down this army to 300